test-driven, the high stakes.
Let me allow Steve Mancini to respond to that. There certainly is a lot of pride in your record of success. Talk about the significance of that and what that means for the program.
Well, ultimately at KIPP we see education as a partnership between parents, students, and teachers. And nationwide we have over 1,200 teachers, and a third of them are African American or Hispanic. And as I said, our student body is over 95% African American or Hispanic. And for us, test scores, they're a means to an end. We have two goals. We're trying to prepare young children for college and also help develop their character skills. There's a saying that hangs in one of our schools in Gary, Indiana, a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, be the change you want in the world. And we're trying to teach our students not only to have the skills and the ability to succeed in college, but also to develop their character, and so they go on to be good citizens and can go change change this world for the better. So we're kept proud of our track record, and we think the or can be an and, that there can be innovation in charter schools and there can be innovation in traditional public schools. And again, we are public, as we do not screen students, and we're non-sectarian, and our schools are free, and we do have support from philanthropic sources like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, but all of our schools are run locally and they're held accountable. Like in New York, we have a charter sponsor that's either the city or a university like SUNY in New York, that if we're not getting results and our parents aren't satisfied, that our schools can be closed. But right now in New York, our schools are thriving, and over 85% nationwide have gone on to college.
It is 7:34. You're listening to Wake Up Call. You're tuned into part 2 of our hour-long education special. Our conversation this morning: charter schools, the cure, the cancer, or the alternative. I'm joined live in studio by Dr. Sheila Evans-Tranumn, who's an Associate Commissioner for Education for the New York State Education Department, discussing the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act and the $4.5 billion targeted for education in New York State, with $1.5 billion of that going to New York City. Also joining us on the line is Steve Mancini, a former public school teacher, now National Director of Public Affairs of the Knowledge is Power program, known as KIPP. Also joined by former teacher and university professor Sam Anderson, formerly the Director of Education for Medgar Evers College's Center for Law and Social Justice, and currently of the New York Commission on Public Education in New York City, and the Black New Yorkers for Educational Excellence. And we're examining this question of what charter schools bring to the landscape of education in New York City. To what extent do they resolve some of the issues that exist in failing public schools, and to what extent do they represent a cancer for the educational landscape? Join us with your thoughts. Now, we're asking to really hear from all of those directly affected in terms of education. So we want to speak with and hear from teachers, principals, teachers' aides, parents, students. And we're going to ask you to identify which out of that group you are and where in New York you're calling from as you join us in this discussion this morning. 212-209-2900. Please do identify which out of that group that you are, because we want to try and have a targeted, a directed conversation. Asking to hear from New York's teachers, principals, students, teachers' aides, vice principals, parents, grandparents of those going to schools, either in charter schools or in public schools. What has been your experience, and what do you think of them? Dr. Tranumn, let me come to you. You spoke about one of the challenges is that the money is on offer for a short period of time. It's got to be spent in 2 years, and there, at this point at least, is that's the kind of the end of this run of money. So talk about some of the possibilities that you think that money is available for, given the short period of time that it's available.
Well, certainly it can be used to keep teachers if cities are in fact going to lose them because of the economic crisis. So rather than to overcrowd classrooms, the money can be used to keep teachers, to keep student-teacher ratios down. The money can be used to strengthen the early childhood programs and to make sure that they are viable parts of the school community. They can also be used for innovative reasons in terms of trying to initiate and strengthen programs within the school All of the strategies, however, must lead to closing the achievement gap between African American and Latinos and white children. So 2 years is a very short time. Those of us in education believe that it's much too short, but we also know that we have an opportunity to prove that if we strengthen accountability, that we can in fact show some results. As Steve and Dr. Anderson were talking about this whole issue of charter schools, and they will be recipients of some of this money, we know that there are things that they need to do in order to strengthen their accountability. This money will help, and Secretary Arne Duncan has said that what he wants to see with charter schools is that the accountability is strengthened. I think we've done an excellent job of trying to make sure that when these charter schools come online in New York City and in New York State, they have had intensive work done to make sure that they are accountable. We're not closing them down as fast as we're opening them up with the way some states are doing, but we are making sure they get an opportunity to incubate, to develop, and then requiring that there is some on-ground support for these schools so that the children and families will not be sold another bill of goods, that someone had a great idea, didn't implement it well, and then now they're gone and the children are left where they were before charter schools emerged. So we have a strong accountability system. The monies are going to go there as well to strengthen some of the programs, and we're just excited about the results I know we're going to get because of that strong accountability in 2 years.
212-209-2900. Let us know, as I said, principal, teacher's aide, educator, teacher, student, parent, and where in New York City you're calling from. BAI, good morning. This is Esther Armah. You're on the air.
How you doing? This is Angel Gonzalez. I'm a retired teacher living in the Bronx.
Okay, go ahead with your point.
And I'm also organizing with the grassroots education movement, which is opposing charter schools, mayoral control, and the privatization of education. We see that charter schools are basically private entities supported by corporate elites such as Bill Gates, the Walton anti-unionist movement, Walton families, and Eli Broad, real estate magnates of California. Anyway, we've been organizing. I just came from a meeting in District 4 where 3 charter schools are entering there. And again, if these are democratic entities, what they do is they bypass communities when they shove these schools in. There's been an outrage, a pouring of outrage in our communities. As witnessed yesterday, Acorn was there, Grassroots, and other community people from El Barrio, the East Harlem area. Again, these schools have been creaming kids. They take the higher performing kids. They negate the struggles that we fought for in terms of bilingual, bicultural education in the 60s and 70s.
And special ed.
They take fewer special education students. We have documented that in Harlem. There's no accountability in terms of what these operators can make. Eva Moskowitz is making over $370,000. Another operation in Brooklyn is making $700,000. If it was a public school, those people would have been indicted. But they have boards that bypass parental involvement, teacher involvement. They're union busters. The New York State Court in April ruled that they can pay them below just wages. And when they bypass all these different democratic controls, they are no longer public when they're not accountable to the public. Okay. And as Sam Anderson said earlier, these good education curriculums have been experimented with. They're there. They are taking money from the public schools and creating the disparity. PS 123, Harlem. There's one school with Harlem Success, Eva Moskowitz, takes one floor. They get smaller class size. They paint all their classrooms. They provide them with better things, and then they create disparate separate and unequal systems in our public schools.
Thank you, Mr.